welcome back to the channel. We got a new recap of a show, Love is Blind Season 2. We're doing week 1, episode 1 through 5 recap. So if you are new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications. If you like the video, smash the like button and drop a comment down in the comment section below. So we finally have got our long-awaited Season 2 of Love is Blind, and boy did it start off with a bang. And we got to talk about these newly formed couples. So without further ado, let's jump into this recap. So I am going to break this down from least to most stable and with our couples. And our first one is Shake and Deepti. Now, out of all of the couples, these two have both acknowledged that what they're building together is special and is unlike anything that they've experienced before. They're also not having huge misunderstandings all the time. They're struggling to build any sort of sexual chemistry, though. But, you know, and I find that interesting because one of the things that he said to one of the other cast members is that being intimate with her was like sleeping with his aunt. Yikes. And I mean, it's crazy because I mean, when he first saw her, he was attracted to her. He was so happy. One thing else about this couple is that this is the first time ever dating within the race. They usually date outside of the race. So to finally date within the race, they don't even want to do any of the traditions or anything like that. So they were excited. They got to the honeymoon. They were still excited. Got to the bedroom, came out of the bedroom, and now it seems that Shake is having some second thoughts. But I will say he has not given up on Deeps because he's still willing to try to build a connection. And the one thing about sexual chemistry, this is their first time being together, and they're practically strangers. This is something that they can actually work on. And if he communicate that to her and she's receptive, or vice versa, you know, they can figure this out, you know. But he needs to make sure that he communicate that in a kind, respectful, and effective way for her not to find it offensive or start to doubt herself. But, you know, so far, you know, that's the only obstacle that I see right now so far this week with this couple. And it's a small obstacle compared to what some of the other couples are dealing with. So far so good this week with Deeps and Shake. But, you know, we definitely have to continue to watch. So let's move on to our next couple. Okay, let's talk about Iyanna and Jarrette. So they ended the first 5 episodes on a high note, even though it didn't start out that way. Yeah, Iyanna is worried about being with someone as extroverted as Jarrette, and the fact is he is. And the other issue is he proposed to Mallory first. Now, let's talk about that for a minute because she's having an issue with it, and a lot of the fans are as well, right? Well, here's the thing, and I look at this situation at face value. This situation is not a normal setting. So when you choose to circular date, and in this case, 14 other people, there is a chance that folks are going to have multiple connections. They know this going into this experiment / process. And Jarrette had 2 connections with Iyanna and Mallory. Mallory also had 2 connections with Jarrette and Sal. And eventually you're going to have to choose. Now, Mal did not choose Jarrette, and at this point, being that he still had a connection with Iyanna, he explored his other connection, which is, you know, Iyanna. Iyanna had the option to choose to walk away, but she didn't. She chose to explore that connection as well, you know. So this whole second choice theory, I kind of call BS on it, because unless you were the first person someone has ever been with, you will not be first after that. You know, these are grown adults. They've been in previous relationships. So whether it's Mal, Jarrette, Iyanna, or anyone else, they're never going to be first per se. It comes down to the right choice, not choice by numbers. I mean, if they realize that they've both made the right choice by choosing each other, it doesn't even matter at this point what number order they came in. So, just say he got with Mal and that thing imploded, but then he should have been with Iyanna. It's about being with the right person. And in this case, Mal chose who she had a better connection with, which was Sal. We'll talk about them in a minute. But it definitely put Iyanna in a position where she felt the way that I just described. And, once she decided that, this is why we're here. I mean, there could possibly have been, we had Shane and Shaina, who also were interested in other connections as well. So that's what happens when you sign up with something like this. You're going to make multiple connections with different people, and you got to choose. That person might not choose you back. So what do? Do you walk away from that other connection that you had, or the person that is interested in you, do you walk away from that just because it may not been in order of what you wanted to be picked? So either way, they still ended up together. And, at this point, it seems like they're getting pretty solid for now. I've seen the previews, but it does seem like they're growing closer. They're having a lot of fun with each other. That whole thing that happened, though, I will say, at the little couples meeting, Mal and Jarrette talked for a long period of time. In a situation like that, I mean, unless producers wanted to make that happen on camera, there's got to be some boundaries that you have to set to say, hey, I'm Jarrette. Now you get to see me. I'm Mal. I got to see you. It's nice to meet you. We couldn't connect. I hope your connection is going well and mine is too. And leave it at that. But for Jarrette to talk about, I know what type of ring you wanted. Sal should have got you the ring that you really liked. And she really didn't respond well by saying, well, that's a nice ring. It wasn't what I picked, but I still like it. You leaving that room in there. So that conversation was a little off. I don't think it should have happened, but it did. And unfortunately, with Iyanna and Sal standing off in the background watching them, and the time that they took to spend together interacting with each other, of course, those two felt some kind of way. And Sal definitely took it hard. So we'll talk about them next. So speaking of Mallory and Salvador definitely hit some bumps in Mexico, which we were just talking about when Jarrette entered the scene. Sal feels very uncomfortable knowing that this guy also proposed to his fiance, and he's definitely not keen on her talking to him on that one-on-one. And no matter how many times Mallory says that she loves her engagement ring, Sal kept beating himself up for not knowing that she wanted a gold ring. The thing is that they got to figure out a way to work through this. The other thing is the insecurity that's going on. He knows that, again, you're in a setting where you're going to have multiple connections, but she chose your proposal. He has to come to terms and feel secure in his choice. So, either he, stop worrying about Jarrette. As long as Jarrette stays on the other side of town with Iyanna, and that was their last deep, long conversation, then maybe he has nothing to worry about. And at the same time, he's worried about he didn't give her the right ring. Okay, maybe you should have talked about that when you were in the pods. But you didn't. You got her a ring. She says she loves it, and she loves you. So some kind of way you got to come to terms with the fact that, okay, this is where we are, and you're going to have to move on from there. But they definitely going to have to get over this if they're going to get married in week 3. So, I don't know about this couple. I'm hoping that, Mallory doesn't hold a torch for Jarrette, and Jarrette hold a torch for Mal, because that's definitely going to set Sal and Iyanna off, But as long as they, stay within their own relationship separately, they've had that one final closure conversation, they'll be fine. But we definitely got 2 more weeks to go too. So we'll have to see what happens. So let's talk about our next couple. Next up is Nick and Danielle. So they continue to be hot and cold throughout the Mexico vacation. She had a panic attack, as she stated, and it seemed like Nick was totally understanding, but then he couldn't handle her saying that she has doubt about marrying this stranger she just met. He said that, she was acting toxic, which is that's a harsh word to kind of throw around. But the two of them made up the next morning, and then they had a date where Danielle said that she worries that he judges her for having anxiety, and she did not believe Nick when he said that he doesn't judge her. So what she's referring to is that she told him to go to the couple's party, okay? Well, while he was at the couple's party, she was watching from the balcony. And as she was watching from the balcony, she caught, I guess, a glimpse of him either talking to someone a little bit too long or whatever the situation is. And so she started to feel some kind of way, went into a panic attack. And then I think she said she was in the closet crying, which, having an anxiety or panic attack is rough. It's a rough situation. I totally get it. However, the thing is, if she really did not want him to go, she should have communicated that. Because he asked, do you really want me to go? Because she was sick. I think she had a stomach bug, so she couldn't go to the party. If she really wanted him to stay, that's all she had to say. Can you stay with me? I know I'm not feeling well. And then when he leaves, you spying from the balcony. And you got, you saw something you didn't like, and it triggered into your panic and anxiety attack. And then the whole back and forth, because she was accusing him, well, you left me here. And he was like, well, you told me to go. You should have told me to stay. So that's that hot and cold pattern that he was calling toxic. And I'm hoping this is something that, maybe she manages in a situation, because if she can't, it's definitely going to cause a rift in their relationship, because she really don't know this man. This is somebody that she's known barely a few days, right? So, at this point, she's going to have to figure out a way to manage this, because those highs and lows and, in their relationship, not with what she's going through, is going to be an issue. So hopefully they'll be able, to work through it. Nick says that he doesn't judge her. She don't really believe them. It's going to be a problem. I don't know if this couple is going to be able to make it to the wedding day, but we'll have to stick around for the next 2 weeks and see what the progression is up to that point. So let us now talk about our last crazy couple. So let's talk about Shane and Natalie. So while Shane and Natalie somehow seem to get along and somehow have the most sexual chemistry of the entire cast, they seem like a mismatch, a complete mismatch. Now, he is overwhelmingly extroverted, and she's not. She can't stop making sarcastic jokes about their relationship, and his feelings keep getting hurt because she won't brag about him. They left Mexico on a bad note, with Shane storming off from their date instead of settling issues that he had with Natalie, which definitely does not bode well. But even before we even got there, there's this whole situation with Shaina. So he had a connection with Shaina. I guess Shaina didn't communicate well enough to show how interested she is, because she also had somewhat of a connection with Kyle. And because of the fact that, Shane felt that Natalie was more open about how she was connected to him and how she felt about him, he ended up proposing to her, even though there was a part of him that was still connected to Shaina. Now, he did get a chance to speak to Shaina after the proposal, because Shaina wanted to put her feelings on the table. And he was like, why didn't you tell me this 2 days ago? And I agree with that. If you really want to be with somebody, you can't play cat and mouse games. You can't play hard to get, because some people aren't going to play with you back. And in this particular situation, Shane is like, look, hey, I got to move on. Now, do I care for his antics? Not really. But at the same time, Shaina really likes him. And she's kind of, kicking herself for not being more open, because he moved on. And even when she put the cards on the table, Shane was like, yeah, you should have told me this two days ago, but unfortunately, I'm still going to stick with Natalie. And this definitely was it didn't sit well with Shaina. And unfortunately, it seems like she really hasn't, let that go. Because that also leads us into Shaina and Kyle. And somehow they're still on the show. I mean, they do reunite in Chicago, where Kyle notes that she's not wearing her red engagement ring. And somehow he remains oblivious to Shaina's feelings. I don't know if he actually thinks that he still has a chance. I mean, she keeps talking about their irreconcilable differences, and Kyle just keeps smiling at her. I don't get it. He's not getting a hint, and she's not calling off the wedding either. And she's also not being honest with him about her strong feelings for Shane. So this is a disaster and a train wreck ready to happen. So it's so unfortunate, because probably if she had spoken up sooner, Shane might have picked her. But you know what? And honestly, looking at their personalities, they look like they probably would be a better fit. I don't see the connection, that he has with Natalie. I just don't see it. And she definitely doesn't have a connection with Kyle. So I don't know how this is going to end. We got to wait for week 2 and week 3. Maybe they'll connect later down the road. I don't know. But this is the end result when you don't communicate well. If she had to put her feelings on the table from day one, he would have made probably a different decision. And they might have would have worked out. And who knows? They might have would have imploded too, because he's extroverted. And I think she's a little extra herself too. So we'll have to see what happens. So I hope you enjoyed this quick recap. I didn't want to do 5 different days of recaps. I wanted to kind of see everything and then do a weekly recap so you guys can get it all in one shot. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Sound off in the comment section. Share the video. This is a new recap for this channel. And we will see you soon.